Myths of Ancient Greece. 5 myths you should know. Before there was time, before empires and kings were born, there were only stories. Stories in which the gods punished for pride, heroes went to the underworld for love, and knowledge cost eternal pain. But what if these myths are not just legends? What if they are ancient codes encrypted for our world? Politics, science, love, and even death. In this video you will hear the 5 most powerful myths of ancient Greece, which have not only survived millennia, they secretly control our reality to this day. Who betrayed the gods for the sake of people and was doomed to torment? Who flew to the sun, risking everything? And which city let the enemy in, thinking it was a gift? Each of these stories is not a fairy tale. It is a warning. Watch until the end, because at the end we will reveal the mystery that the Greeks left for future generations. Maybe you are part of it. The ancient gods are not dead. They just changed their names. Are you ready to see their true faces? We begin. The first myth is about the fall of the Titans. This is not just a story about gods and battles. It is a legend about the change of eras, about sons who rebel against their fathers, and about the fire that never goes out in the heart of revolutions. Once upon a time, the world was young, and there was no Zeus, Athena, or Apollo. Kronos ruled over everyone. The Titan, the Lord of Time. He gained power by overthrowing his own father Uranus, and it seemed that his reign would last forever. But as soon as Kronos heard the prophecy, one of his sons would overthrow him from the throne. He began to swallow his own children immediately after birth. So Hestia, Demeter, Hades, and Poseidon fell into the dark belly of their father. But one day, the wife of Kronos could not stand it. When Zeus was born, she hid him in the caves of Crete, and in his place she slipped a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes. Thus began an era that even the Titans could not stop. Zeus grew up in secret, tempered by wild winds and ancient spirits. When he returned, not as a child but as the thunder god, a war began that would be remembered for all eternity. The Titanomachy. For 10 years, heaven and earth trembled. The Olympians, led by Zeus, fought against their ancestors, the Titans who ruled from Othrys. Even forces they feared to speak of took part in this battle. The Hecaton hares with 100 arms, the Cyclopes who forged Zeus's lightning. The oceans boiled, the mountain peaks split, and the stars fell from the sky. In the end, Zeus won. Kronos and the Titans were thrown into Tartarus, the deepest darkness of the world, where their chains still hold. And Zeus and his brothers divided power. The sky, the sea, and the underworld. Thus began the era of Olympus. But why do we return to this myth again and again? Because it is a story about the eternal cycle of power. The old is always afraid of the new. Those who seize the throne by force are always afraid of losing it in the same way. The story of Kronos is repeated in emperors, dictators, rulers. All of them try to swallow the future, destroy their successors, keep time in chains. But there is always a new Zeus, the one who was not destroyed, the one who returns. The next myth is about the one who gave people fire, and for that was cursed forever. The second myth is about Prometheus. This is not a story about a god. This is a story about a rebel, about the first revolutionary who did not submit to either power, fear, or eternity. The myth of someone who paid for one spark with millennia of pain. When Zeus established his power over the world, he decided to put people in their place. Mortals were like dust to him, weak, worthless, intended only for worship. Fire, knowledge, skill, all this was to remain only among the gods. But there was one who did not agree. Prometheus, the Titan who did not betray humanity. The one who saw mortals not as slaves but as creators. While Olympus was walking, Prometheus steals fire from the forge of Hephaestus. Not just fire as heat, but as a symbol of technology, thought, spirit. He hid it in a reed and gave it to people. And that night the darkness receded. Humanity lit its first fires, and never again remained in the shadows. But the gift had its price. Zeus did not forgive betrayal. By order of the almighty ruler, Prometheus was captured and chained to a rock in the Caucasus, where an eagle flew to him every day and tore his liver apart. That liver was renewed every night. Endless torment without hope. But the worst thing is not the pain. The worst thing is the eternal realization that it is not a monster that is punishing you, but your former brother. This myth lives on today. Because every scientist who challenges the system, every creator who brings something new, everyone who brings light to where it is forbidden, is a modern Prometheus. And the system still wants to chain him. Fire is not just energy. It is a symbol of disobedience. The story of Prometheus is a warning. Not every gift from the gods comes without blood. The third myth is about Orpheus and Eurydice. This is not a war. This is not a rebellion. This is a song. And this song does not sound among the living. It sounds in the kingdom of shadows, where even the gods whisper, and love becomes the only weapon against death. Orpheus is the son of Apollo and the muse Calliope. Not a warrior, not a magician, not a king. His power is in the sound. He played the lyre so that trees bent, rivers stopped, and wild animals became tame. But even the best melodies do not protect against losses. When his beloved Eurydice died from a snake bite, Orpheus's world collapsed. He did not scream, did not take revenge, did not curse the gods. He took his lyre and went where no one else dared, to the very center of the underworld. Across the Styx River, past the three-headed Cerberus, through shadows and weeping, he walked, playing, and all the darkness stopped. Even Hades, the lord of the dead, even Persephone, the eternally sad queen of shadows, they melted from this music, and they gave him a chance. Eurydice can return. But there is one condition. He must go ahead, she, behind. And he has no right to look back, to the very light. Orpheus walked and was silent. But what to do when the heart does not hear steps behind? When the mind shrinks from fear, what if she is not there? Hadn't Hades deceived him? Wasn't this world playing with him? At the very last moment, when there were only a few steps left to the light, Orpheus couldn't stand it. He turned back. He saw her eyes, and at that moment, she disappeared into the mist, forever. This myth is about us, about everyone who loved, about everyone who believed and betrayed faith, about hope that fights doubt, and about how sometimes one look back can destroy everything. Even today, when we look for answers in the past, when we want to return those we lost, we all repeat the path of Orpheus. Because love is always a risk. And the real tragedy is not in death, but in the fact that we ourselves cannot stand the test of faith. The fourth myth is about Daedalus and Icarus. This is not just a story about flight. It is a chronicle of ambition, a warning about limits and the eternal temptation of man to rise where only the gods go. Daedalus is the wisest craftsman of the ancient world. His hands created miracles, moving statues, labyrinths from which there is no escape, and mechanisms that overshadowed the will of nature. He built for kings, for gods, and even for monsters. It was he who created the labyrinth for the Minotaur in Crete. But every miracle must be paid for. King Minos decided that such a genius had no right to leave, and he locked Daedalus and his son Icarus in a tower where not even a bird could fly. The earth, the sea, everything was covered by guards, but not the sky. And then Daedalus created wings, from feathers and wax. The son and father rose into the air, and for a moment they became free. But the father knew, flying is not just inspiration, it is balance. He begged, "Do not fly too low, the sea will wet the wings. Do not fly too high, the sun will melt the wax." But Icarus was young. His heart beat to the rhythm of freedom. He wanted not just to escape, he wanted to fly, high, higher, highest. And he rose above the clouds, above fear, above even doubts, until the sun touched him, the wax flowed, the feathers crumbled, and he fell into the sea, which has since been called the Icarian Sea. And Daedalus survived, cursed by his genius. He knew everything, in addition to how to stop the heart of a young man dreaming of the sky. This myth lives in everyone who strives for more, in everyone who rises against prohibitions, instructions, and fears. In science, in art, in revolutions, there are Icarus everywhere, and there are always those who warn. But the question remains, is it better to fall having burned your wings or never to rise at all? But the real break will come when the gift becomes betrayal, when the city destroys itself having accepted the gift. The fifth myth is about the Trojan horse. This is not a story about heroes. This is a story about trust that became poison, about a gift that was a trap, and about how a powerful civilization fell not from the power of the enemy, but from its own blindness. For 10 years, the Greeks stood under the walls of Troy. For 10 years, Achilles destroyed, Ajax tore, Odysseus devised, but the city stood, impregnable, proud, stubborn. Neither spear, nor sword, nor siege, nothing helped. And then Odysseus proposed something else. An idea, a giant wooden horse, as if a gift, in honor of the goddess Athena. The Greeks supposedly sail away, leaving the horse at the gate, as a sign of defeat and recognition. And at night, they will return. The Trojans looked at the horse with suspicion. Cassandra, the cursed prophetess, begged not to let him in. Laocoon threw a spear at him, and at that moment snakes emerged from the sea, strangling him and his sons. "This is a sign from the gods," said the Trojans, and they held a feast. When night fell on the city, the best warriors of Greece emerged from the horse's belly. They opened the gates, and Troy, proud, beautiful Troy, fell in one night. Temples were destroyed, kings were killed, libraries burned, sanctuaries desecrated. An idea defeated force. Cunning broke down walls. Trust destroyed civilization. This myth lives on today. The modern Trojan horse is not made of wood. It comes in the form of news, programs, messengers, political rhetoric. We too are persuaded to let in, to open, to believe. And if we don't know how to see what's inside the gift, we too can burn in our own city. Not every gift is a blessing. Sometimes it's the beginning of the end. Ancient Greek myths are not just legends from stone slabs. They are chronicles of human essence. They do not disappear. They change, flowing from era to era. They have a struggle for power and freedom, the price of knowledge, love that knows no bounds, flight for which one pays with a fall, and trust, which can turn into betrayal. These stories have survived empires, religions, wars, because the truth in them is not in the names of the gods, but in the laws by which the world moves. Myths are the memory of civilization, and as long as we remember them, we are not blind. Subscribe if knowledge is your power, and leave a comment. Which myth speaks to you the loudest?